Do you want your Airbnb to feel more designer, but you don't have a budget for huge upgrades? In this video, I'm going to share my top 5 tips on how to make your Airbnb feel more designer on a budget. All the tips I'm going to be sharing today are things that you can add to your existing listings without having to do a big redesign or buy furniture or any of that stuff. These are just high impact changes that you can layer into your existing listing today to see big returns. I'm Haifa. I am a short-term rental host with more than 200 5-star reviews. I'm also an interior designer, and I help hosts like you maximize your bookings through beautiful design and smart strategy. I've also created a free Airbnb setup guide that I'm going to link to in the notes below. That is going to include links to all the products that I talk about in this video. My first tip is to use only premium white linens and towels. If you only take away one thing from this video today, let this be it. It's going to make a huge impact to your listing. If you look at hotels, you'll see that they pretty much only use white linens and towels, and the reason for that is that they signal cleanliness and they signal trust. If I see a listing that has colored or patterned sheets in any way, my mind immediately goes to, ooh, I wonder what that's hiding. That's probably not clean. My go-to brand is the California Design Den linens. I think they offer such a great product at an accessible price point. It is the #1 thing that our guests compliment us on across all of our properties. And as far as towels, we like to use the Çakır Turkish Linens brand. I usually give guests a bath towel, a face towel, and a washcloth. And then if it's at any of our waterside or beach locations, we'll also give them a stripy beach towel. Now, I know a lot of people will automatically think, white linens, that sounds like a nightmare. How am I going to keep this clean? And the good news is that white sheets actually can be easier in some ways because you can bleach them. Personally, I don't use bleach. I use oxy powder and different stain removers. There's a lot of stuff you can do. And again, I have those all linked in my setup guide. Now, are you going to have some sheets that are stained beyond repair? For sure, that's going to happen. I just put that down to the cost of doing business. I think for the upgrade that it offers to your listing and how much more premium it's going to feel with the white sheets, it is 100% worth it. Studies show that the vast majority of people do prefer to have white sheets, so the bottom line is that if you implement this change, you will definitely see more bookings. My tip #2 is to have a signature scent. If you go to a boutique hotel, you will notice immediately as soon as you walk into the lobby that they'll have a beautiful fragrance usually, and it's so evocative with scent, it immediately transports you. It puts you in that frame of mind of, ooh, I am staying in a really elevated place. Personally, I'm a fan of the Aromatech series of diffusers. Again, it's a really accessible price point. I think they have diffusers starting at around $100. And the oils can be a little bit pricey to buy up front, but they last for such a long time, so you are going to get a ton of use out of them, and it's definitely worth the investment. My go-to fragrance in all of our properties is the Santal. This is a classic fragrance which at the same time still feels really modern and cool. It's not too perfumey, it feels really elevated. I think it's something that you can use in pretty much any type of listing, and you just really can't go wrong with this. Another thing I love about the Aromatech series, for short-term rentals especially, is that it comes with an app so that you can control a lot of settings from your phone. So you can change the intensity, how long you want it to diffuse, how much of a break you want it to have in between diffusion. And this is just really great if you're not able to physically be at the property yourself. You can just set it so it can run remotely. My tip here would be to keep it subtle, keep it on a low setting so that it's just a little accent in the background. You don't want to be overpowering people with too much fragrance. So the bottom line is having a scent makes your space feel really curated and elevated and more of a thought-through experience. Tip #3 is to use premium bathroom products. That is your shampoo, conditioner, shower gel, and if you want to go the extra mile, you can include a lotion also. Having these makes such a huge difference in the mind of your guests between I am staying at someone's house versus I am staying in a boutique hotel. I like to use the pump bottles. I think they just look really beautiful and elevated in the bathroom. You can refill them, and so oftentimes it actually works out more economical too than the drugstore products that you might be using now, not to mention that it's more eco-friendly because you're going to be using less packaging. When it comes to selecting which brand to use, you obviously want to choose something that is in the vibe of your particular property or your brand as a whole if you have one. If I had to recommend one brand that's a good all-rounder that's going to work in most properties, I like the Apothec series, especially the Canvas and White Vetiver scents. Tip #4 is to have good lighting. Lighting is so important in making your space feel more premium. What you want to do is avoid using too much of the harsh overhead lighting. Instead, try to layer different types of lighting around your space. You can use floor lamps, tabletop lamps, little accent lamps. Just try and mix it up a little bit and combine them to make a really nice, beautiful, glowy vibe in your space so that you can avoid having to use the overhead lighting. You also want to keep the color temperature of your lights uniform. If you have some lights that are more yellow, some that are more bluish, or some that are more greeny in color and some that are more pink in color, it's going to read chaotic and your guests are going to notice it even if it's subliminally. It's going to make your space feel less premium. So what you want to do is choose all of the same color temperature bulbs. I like to use a 2700K, which is a soft white bulb. Now, when you're doing photos of your space, I think it's okay to mix more different color temperatures of lighting because that can look layered and it can still look quite good in a photo. But in a real life setting, when your guests are staying here, it's just going to read a little chaotic to have different types of lighting, and so you really do want to try and keep it uniform. Lighting matters because it just makes your space feel that much more cohesive and intentional. Also, when people look good in this beautiful lighting, they're going to feel good and it's going to make them that much more likely to come and stay with you again in future. Tip number 5 is to offer a welcome gift. This is going to depend on your type of listing and what your nightly rate is. If you have a condo, for instance, where you're charging $100 a night, it's not going to make a ton of sense for you to offer a $20 welcome gift. So just try and judge what works and what makes sense for you mathematically. When you're choosing items for your gift basket, you want to keep your guest avatar in mind. So, for instance, if you normally get families with young children, you want to offer them gifts that the kids are going to love. If you tend to get more couples that are coming for a romantic getaway, maybe you want to offer them a bottle of Prosecco or something like that. You want to set yourself a budget and stick to it. For most of my listings, we have a budget of about $25 for our welcome gift, and in that I'll include things like a bottle of wine, some microwave popcorn. In our mountain properties, we'll do things like a little s'mores kit that they can use by the fire pit. Regardless of the nightly rate you're charging, you can always find some small thing that you can offer, even if it's just a little chocolate on the pillow, just to signal to the guests that you care about them and that you've thought about those little extras. One small tip is to avoid anything perishable. That way you can store things more easily in your supply closet, and if you should have a guest that's a no-show, it's not a big deal. The reason that we love giving a welcome gift is it's part of that surprise and delight element that you always want to be aiming for. I think it just puts your guests in a good mood immediately and just sets them up to have a really great stay. In my experience, it makes it less likely that they'll complain about small things, and God forbid if you should have any bigger issues during their stay, it just sets you up for better communication and just a better footing that hopefully you can get things resolved in a more amicable and easy way. I've also found that it makes it more likely for guests to leave you a good review, and a lot of our guests in their review mention our welcome basket, so it's definitely something that can help you stand out from the crowd. Okay guys, those are my top 5 tips for how to make your Airbnb feel more designer on a budget. If there's anything that you'd like to see me cover in future videos, or if you have any questions or comments about what we've covered today, drop me a line below. Until next time, happy hosting.